like me, or if you think like me, I used to believe that I had to work so hard, pay my taxes and work for, and I didn't want to wait for so long. I wanted results quick, like now, next week, next month, next semester, next year, the next 2 years, and start having a much better life. Cash flow is just like a household without a monthly wage. Imagine that, right? With the Daddy Boss, we talk about creating cash flow. Cash flow is literally money that comes in every single month, every single week, every single day. Depending on how you structure your business, you want to have the largest amounts of cash flows and within the most frequent period of time that you can. So I used to binge financial podcasts, and my hope was to find a way to get out of my corporate job and stop working for a boss and slaving myself for these large multinationals and everything else. But all I heard from them was cut your expenses and invest in the index funds or buy stocks and shares and things like that. But reality was none of them actually worked. And they didn't really help me generate enough money or cash flow every month to be able to replace my income. That was a little bit of a trap, and I wanted something different. I needed something that would help me replace my income, and if I wanted to leave the work, which I did, I could just go and I knew the income would come every month. And index and stocks and shares and things like that, unless you invest in the regions of the tens of millions, it's very hard to give you that inflow of cash every month or perhaps every week. So I needed something that was practical, that would work, and it was not easy to find. And you're probably watching this video here, you know somebody or even yourself that are on this situation or have been there before. And that's how I kind of somehow came across a life circumstance, a life situation where I was faced with a challenge. I had my back against the wall and I had to figure out a way to generate income and cash flow, and that was through real estate, which I have shared on another video here. I believe one of my podcasts, I think in the first episode there somewhere, I shared why I went into property and how I went into property and why I do what I do today. But the main point I wanted to share with you here is this. I had the desire to stop working for boss, corporations and things, and I wanted to generate cash flow, but I didn't know how. And I went to these podcasts and listening to every single thing I could grasp, put my hands on, and they were all kind of giving financial advice. And I then realized as well that most of the financial advisors there providing this advice, they were just paid to promote a product, but they didn't really have money themselves, or they didn't have enough themselves. So I then got to learn that financial advisors, most of them, not all of them, with all due respect, I know a lot of them, some of them are very good, but most at the time, they were just promoting financial products from financial companies that would charge a lot of fees in there and never really get the cash flow you needed. But I had to figure out a way, and that's how I eventually had a life circumstance or a life situation which led me to go into property, and then eventually started controlling assets without having to buy it for myself. Or even before buying it, it started to generate cash flow and equity without having to buy it, right? Which is really advanced for most people. I know that it's pretty much a unique way that I have discovered over the years, initially because I had my back against the wall. And what I did after a while was I started sharing that with other fathers just like me, who wanted a good lifestyle for themselves, for their families. They wanted to live in a nice place, they wanted to go on nice holidays, and they didn't want to be tied up to a paycheck or a boss. In most cases, unfortunately, an environment or a boss that they didn't really want to be around much. I have been privileged that I did work with some amazing people, some amazing bosses in the past, but majority, they were not so nice, because corporations, as you know, they're there for profits, and whatever they can squeeze for larger profits, they will, and that includes people, unfortunately. So I started sharing what I learned with other fathers, and eventually I created what I call the Daddy Boss system, which is just that. It's a system, it's a proven system that I have been using myself for many, many years, and I now share with other fathers, like-minded fathers, It's a proven system to generate cash flow and equity through assets even before you have to buy it, which is pretty advanced. And that's the foundation of Daddy Boss, right? Which is a movement that I'm really, really passionate about. Now, what I wanted to share with you today here, it's mainly about what Daddy Boss is and the difference between what you find in the open market, like I did. I used to binge podcasts for financial independence and things, and at the end of the day, I just realized they were all there to kind of like sell me a product, a financial product, whether it was life insurance, which is good to build wealth. I've got a few, but they were all promoting packages and products that will have highest amounts of fees, and therefore the actual profit was not there, but I needed cash flow. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. So why most financial podcasts are the same. And I'll share with you why, because of my own experience. You're probably doing that at this stage. And if you are, good, there's some good value in there. But if you are in a situation where I was before, which I just needed cash flow, I needed an inflow of funds into my bank account every month that I could go and jump out of my corporate job and go and start my own business and do my own thing and start living life on my own terms. I just wanted cash flow today, cash flow next week, cash flow for next month, nothing else, right? And why most financial podcasts are the same. So talking about budgeting, cutting costs, and waiting for 40 years to retire, okay? So it's good advice, but it's not really enough if you want real freedom. And the reason is, if you are like me, or if you think like me, I used to believe that I had to work so hard, pay my taxes, and work for companies to build a career, hoping to have a secured job. And over the years, I came to realize nothing was secured. It was actually super exposed, because the lifestyle was in a certain way, which was good, but then I was reliant on a paycheck every month. And then if I didn't have that paycheck for more than a few months, then life will take a complete bad turn. And I was conditioned to believe that you work so hard, you pay your taxes, and then you go and you pay your pension, because you pay a little bit every month and then you eventually retire. That's how most of us were conditioned, right? Most of the middle class around the world is conditioned this way for a reason. Governments can only tax middle class, well, mostly middle class, because the poor, there's no money to be taxed, and the wealthy will utilize limited company structures and offshore company structures that money is rooted in different ways. So middle class is the chunk where the government gets the money from. And that's the reason why schools condition kids the way they do, because it's a government grade system, right? Work hard, pay your taxes, work for somebody else, and pay your pension. That's how the system is set up. There's a setup there, guys. It's not the way it is for by accident. It's just there because it's a grid to keep people where they are. Now, if you were thinking about savings and paying a little bit of pension every month here and there and everywhere, and then eventually retire in 40, 50 years time, well, that's well and good. Now, question is, do you know if you're going to stay around for long? Do you know if you're going to stay around for that long to actually enjoy what you're going to have? And if what you're going to have is going to be big enough to give you a nice lifestyle that you don't need to worry about money or finances? Now, the problem with the traditional advice is this, right? It's designed for employees, not for entrepreneurs. Okay, remember this. The traditional advice that you see or see coming from the news or financial podcasts or financial advisors, as they call themselves. I've lost a lot of money with them, by the way. They designed for employees. People, they are conditioned to stay in the system, literally trapped into that system of working for somebody else and living off post-tax money, okay? Unless you are on the top 5% of the largest CEOs around the world, you're probably not on a bracket where you're gonna have life in your terms if you're working for somebody else, okay?